But we both agree Path of Exile's fine where it's at with what it sells in the market, right?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. I just wouldn't call it pay to win because I just think that functionally, it just doesn't solve anything.
No, they're not bugs.
They're absolutely bugs. That is not an accurate representation of what you do as a character. You should never at any point look at tooltip DPS.
Don't argue, he doesn't understand how they work. Okay, so what about, I googled, is Path of Exile pay to win?
Stash tabs, that's what you're going to get an answer on.
First thread. As a happy customer with a hell of a lot of stash tabs, I think it would be disingenuous to assert that stash tabs aren't in any way pay to win.
5 people already tells you it's pay to win. 5 people would tell me I look like a girl in the VTubing stuff. Doesn't mean they're right. Now they're hiring a casino gotcha expert to put the systems in place. No, Riot Games has been very fair with their free-to-play games. I have no problems at all with it. League of Legends is in a good place free-to-play wise. Valorant is very fair. Their card game, extremely fair. It's okay, pay to win team is only for the Asia version of the game. Is that even true for Riot Games games? There's nothing really pay to win about their mechanics, right? Path of Exile has pay to win, but that's only in Asian servers, and they are Tencent as well, but it's not Riot Games, right? Riot Games would never tolerate that. Look at Fnatic Jarvan skin. Huh? Why? What's going on here? Oh my god, flashbang! Jesus Christ! Pay to win skin. Hiding your EQ combo with a bugged animation. So you throw out your E, Q immediately, you're in there. Okay, so that's regular EQ. What do you got? Fnatic. Okay. Okay, so what's bugged about this? Am I dumb? Flag comes out of J4. Nah, that's not pay to win. Do you know what pay to win means? This is not... Guys, this is not pay to win. This isn't... You guys are coping. You guys are on copium. It's bug. Sure, they should fix it. But pay to win? No. You guys haven't seen... You guys don't know. You're so naive. I'm sorry. Listen, if you think that's pay to win, you need to play some more Asian games, all right? Like, when I think of pay to win, I think of, like, spend this money, get an incredible sword to win the game. It's just like that kind of situation. This is not as bad as Diablo Immortal, therefore not pay to win. Diablo Immortal is pay to win. Outright, unabashed, it is pay to win. If you're telling me in Path of Exile, if using Seraph Spectral Throw gives you incidentally 10 more attack range that you didn't have before, is that pay to win? It's an unintended thing. It's gonna get fixed eventually, probably. No, I would say it's not pay to win. When I think of pay to win, I think of a deliberate effort by the company to, like, sell you power. That's what I think of. Fair? Oh, thank you, YouTube chat. Twitch chat's giving me sass. YouTube's on my side. If you're just giving me examples of pay to win in League, is it because particle effects are harder to see? Okay, that's not pay to win, right? That's just a bug, right? If it's a bug in Path of Exile, hold on, are you guys one of those people that defines, like, a currency tab as pay to win? Are you guys one of those people? Is a currency tab to you pay to win? It's all on the list of pay to win stuff? No shot. So being able to see where you aim while others don't is not pay to win to you? Oh, no, it's a bug. That doesn't mean it's a design. I am so confused by this. You guys are the ones who are inconsistent, not me. I'm consistent. I'm the one who thought this through, okay?
As you can see in the gameplay, it definitely looks like Bard's Q should miss, but it hits the target.
Is that pay to win? No, I would not define that as pay to win. I would say that was an unintended interaction. Fair. Yes. If I don't flash it, I get stunned. Okay, but if he had the normal skin, you would have still gotten... I'm consistent, Garmic Twitch. You guys are the ones being inconsistent. You guys are defining as anything that, like... Anything that is bugged, anything that alters gameplay is pay to win. And no shot is that true. Okay, how about this? Is horse armor in Oblivion that makes the game load 0.1 second faster when you get into the world map, is that pay to lose? Is that pay to lose to you, chat? What is, like, the bare minimum to you of defining what affects gameplay? Gary, Chinese pay to win is not the only type of pay to win that exists. You guys need to find better terminology then, because when I think of pay to win, I think of absolutely egregious examples, right? I think of, like, Genshin Impact, where you spend money to gamble on weeby stuff on like 12-year-old anime girls, and it's like, okay, you rolled a 5-star 12-year-old anime girl. This one can play volleyball with in spandex. Congratulations, you now kill bosses faster. That's pay to win to me, okay? But if you're like, hey, Gary, Seraph's Spectral Throw is pay to win because it's easier to see her in a delirium. It's like, how is that pay to win? 5 people already tells you it's pay to win. 5 people would tell me I look like a girl in the VTubing stuff. Doesn't mean they're right. Any advantage over others is pay to win. It'll depend on the game and the competitive scene and how pay to win it is. No, I don't think it's a gradient. Well, if there is a gradient, you guys are like getting the absolute slightest shade of gray and calling it pay to win. In which case, you're turning it binary, not me. Your definition of pay to win is just awful, Gary? No, your guys' definitions are awful. It's inconsistent. You got, hold on, we're bringing out paint. You guys made me do it. Here, listen, this is pay to win, flashbang. This is a gradient, right? Over here, not pay to win, all right? Over here, pay to win. And we're talking like Asian MMO, by power, by levels, by gear, all that shit. Like, everyone can agree, okay? You guys are saying, oh, we're right here on the scale of pay to win, and you see the littlest bit of gray? Guess what? This is pay to win, Gary. It affects gameplay in any significant way at all, or not even insignificant. It could be a 1-frame advantage in like Path of Exile, still pay to win. Oh my God, your skill has 2 more range on it, pay to win. That's what you guys are doing, okay? I'm saying this is pay to win. And here, I would say probably not pay to win, okay? If you're saying like skin effect is harder to see Q on or Jarvan E going out in like the first quarter second of the skill, I'm saying that's not pay to win. I'm saying that's a bug, okay? Gary, you're right. Thank you for feeding my ego shark. Now I think I'm wrong, but it's okay. Don't question mark me, chat. I'm right. Don't be like, what is Gary drawing here, man? I got no idea. What about when actually good competitive players play and that 1-frame advantage shifts the entire game? Well, then that sounds like a not pay to win problem. It's like a bug problem. Here's the problem with that, chat. This is my issue. If you paint everything in this box that's not the very edge here as pay to win, what's gonna happen is that when actual pay to win comes out, nobody's going to take it seriously. If Diablo 4 has actual buying gear power, people are going to be like, okay, that's pay to win, but you know what? Path of Exile is pay to win too. It's like, it's not even, hey guys, did you know you can buy a stash tab in Path of Exile? That's pay to win, guys, right? Well, no, it's like right here. I would say that. It's like right here, right? Yeah, you get a little bit of advantage in the sense of like you can hold more gear, but that doesn't make you more powerful. You don't even need stashes to be that good. You don't even need a currency stash tab. You just, you know, it'd be inconvenient, but is that buying power? Sure, but I wouldn't call it pay to win. You guys are arguing semantics. That's what you're doing. Okay, let's do another gradient. Okay, let's imagine there's another gradient right here. We're going to use another example, an analogy, if you will. What if we have the color red over here and the color blue over here? And the color blue over here. What you guys are doing is taking the absolute lightest shade of purple, the one that goes like right here, just the ever so hint of red. It's red. It's red. It's unnegotiable. That is the color red, all right? We need to stop all red in all games because it's all red, okay? An artist accidentally uses a shade of blue with a hint of red in it, it's red. Like, that's what I feel in this discussion, where you guys are labeling everything as pay to win. If you buy something in the shop that is advertised and is said by the company to be a 1% power gain, yes, I would call that pay to win. But if you buy a skin from a shop in a video game that advertises it as a cosmetic only item, and it's a bug where you have a 1% to 7% power gain or whatever, I still don't think that's pay to win, but I think that is a bug that should be fixed, because there are people out there who will buy it because they would consider it pay to win, even though like it's gonna get fixed. I still wouldn't call it pay to win. It doesn't matter if it's a bug or not, it's still pay to win. I disagree. Admit that you're wrong and just go back to gaming? Well, hold on! I need to prove a point. No, it's not that it's 1 frame. It's that it's 1 frame that is unintended. It is a bug. It's not meant to be there, okay? That is what I'm talking about. I don't want to call every instance of that pay to win because it's not really pay to win. That's not what we should be attacking as a video game community. We can attack the company for like not fixing a bug, but don't call it pay to win. It's like saying theft is breaking the law and does somebody want to get into a Discord call with me? All right, go Fonzie.
It's not about whether they intend it to be pay to win. Just because there's a bug that's causing it to be pay to win doesn't mean that the skin is inherently built to be pay to win. It simply is pay to win because of the current state of it.
No, but the danger I'm worried about when it comes to this pay to win discussion is I'm worried we're going to be labeling everything minor as pay to win. We're just labeling everything as the color red, right? So I'm worried that when actual pay to win comes out, like in Diablo, we're just going to be like, oh, it's pay to win. And Diablo players can be like, oh, well, you know what? Path of Exile is pay to win too. Look at stash tabs. And it's like, that's not even like the same thing. It's like on a whole different level. That's why I wouldn't define like stash tabs in Path of Exile as pay to win. Would you?
Well, that's why it's a severity thing. Just like the example of like minor theft being against the law and murder being against the law. It's not like people say like everything has that same severity to it.
Well, it does, because what if you do this? What if you were to murder somebody in self-defense and you were in like the public court of opinion? You were on Twitter and be like, I had to kill this somebody in self-defense. It's just not like a thing I think I was justified in it. And people were like, well, hold on. You killed somebody in the same way. What's the name of that cannibal that came from like Wisconsin? What's his name? The very famous one. It's not Hannibal, but like, you know what I mean, right? It's like Jeffrey Dahmer. It's like, oh, you killed somebody? Oh, you're just like Jeffrey Dahmer. You're both murderers. And it's like, well, hold on. This isn't really the same thing, right? You would agree with me, yes?
Yeah, there's context to it. In the
Yeah,
same
there's
way that
context, but
to whether it's minor pay to win or if it's like a super egregious pay to win where you just buy your way like to 100% victory. Just because you can buy yourself like a 2% higher chance of winning doesn't mean it's not pay to win. It's still pay to win by definition.
No, I don't think so. I think pay to win implies that the game company is like knowingly selling this for the purposes, like they're selling out. They're greedy. They want to sell you power as like a player in order for them to make money. And I feel like as long as it's a bug that they're intending to fix, even if it's not fixed at the moment, I would not call that pay to win.
It's still functionally pay to win, though. It doesn't matter whether their intention is to have it as a form of pay to win. Like the thing itself, inherent, like just by the fact that you have to pay for it and it improves your chances of winning, that just makes it pay to win.
Is that even necessarily true though?
That's like literally the definition of pay to win.
I don't think it's the definition. When I think of like pay to win, what it means, I think it's a mistake to think of it as you buy this thing in the store that gives you power. I think that is such a super hyper specific in the sense that it's very broad. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's a very broad definition that fits into anything. And that problem with that is you're labeling like a lot of things as pay to win when it's not. Do you think Path of Exile is in any capacity in the North American version pay to win?
Well, the problem with that is that Path of Exile has a very different form of defining what winning is. And for most players, there is no like winning through that. Like even if you had something that gave you like real advantage, there isn't really winning to Path of Exile for me. Whereas something like a Jarvan skin giving a very slight like visual or mechanical advantage, that like clearly makes a huge difference in competitive play.
Okay, so if League of Legends came out with a skin, like a J4 skin, how about just use the example? I don't even need to do an analogy. Okay, that J4 skin, where the E was invisible coming out, and it was an unintended interaction, you would define that as pay to win.
As it stands in the game, yes, that skin is currently pay to win.
Okay, what if they came out and said, hey, we're going to fix this in 3 days because it's a bug and which is not going to be exist. So don't buy this for the purposes of like gaining power because it's not going to work for very long. Is it pay to win until the bug gets fixed?
Yes.
I disagree.
Of, like things like the TF Ghost card skin, all of the other skins that were at the time pay to win because you could pay to buy them and they made you win more.
I think that is such a mistake, because if we define that as pay to win, what's going to happen is, again, we're gonna lose track of what pay to win actually means. We're gonna lose track of like what the goal is, like why we hate it in the first place. Because what's gonna happen is players who are less informed, especially younger people, they're gonna get used to the idea of like, oh, this is pay to win, but most games have pay to win. Every game is pay to win, which it feels like is kind of happening with like every game that has a market.
See, the thing is, you're arguing the semantics, because you're arguing in that instead of having this broader idea of what pay to win is, you want to have a very strict definition that only includes things that are fairly extreme measures. Whereas when we're saying pay to win, we're defining it under the whole banner of what pay to win means, which very simply is being able to pay in order to gain an advantage to help you win.
Even, no, because then why attack game companies? Because if game companies come out and it's like, hey, this unintended thing came out, your game is pay to win, that feels like you're attacking the game company. Is that not the case?
We are not saying that the game company is making a pay-to-win microtransaction. We're not saying that the company is making a pay-to-win microtransaction. If they say, yes, this is a bug and we're going to fix it, and they do fix it, but some bugs don't get fixed at all. So what's stopping the game companies from saying, hey, this is currently giving you 20% more power, but it's a bug and we're going to fix it, and they never fix it? Is that not pay to win just because they say it was a bug?
Oh my god. Sorry, I died. I'm pissed. All right. No, I would not define that as pay to win. Well, if it's done deliberately, sure. But, like, let's not act like a game company having a Jarvan skin with his E invisible at the first quarter second of it, like it's the highest priority in the world, right? I would imagine they have bigger fish to fry. So I have a really hard time labeling a company like that does it incidentally. I just don't want to attribute to malice what can be attributed to just you have higher priorities as a company. I still wouldn't define that as pay to win.
We are not attributing that to malice. We're not saying that every instance of pay to win is bad or is made from malice. We're just saying, yes, this is a pay to win microtransaction, and we can acknowledge that without putting blame into the company, without saying that the company or the
But isn't that what happens, though? Like, if you're on Reddit and you're like, hey, what do I feel about this game? And somebody's like, how about this, Path of Exile? If it's like, hey, should I play Path of Exile? Is free to play? Is it pay to win? And somebody's like, yeah, it's pay to win. And it's like, oh, what is it? It's like, oh, you can buy a stash tab. How do you feel about that? Is that not damaging to the company?
Okay, if you're trying to play Path of Exile competitively, and you're trying to be the best in a race, you're trying to beat, like, let's say, for example, you're trying to beat Caesar and Orben and get the prize money and in a trade environment, doesn't having the stash tabs to be able to trade give you an advantage over the people that don't?
Even if it does, you should not be calling it pay to win on like Reddit. Not you specifically, but like in general. It really irks me when people do that because it's damaging to the Grinding Gear Games logo, not the logo, but the company, the game, Path of Exile, because it's such a frustrating thing because Path of Exile prides itself in not being pay to win. And I would argue it's successful in that regard. You can't really buy power. Yes, it might give you an advantage in like the hyper endgame racing scenario where you have like a tab like that you can specifically get essences quicker out of or something. But I think it's too damaging. The trade-off isn't worth it. It's too broad of a definition to just label something like Path of Exile pay to win because I don't think it's fair.
Okay, the only reason I think Path of Exile doesn't get labeled as pay to win, and the people that say it's pay to win doesn't get really taken seriously, is because at the end of the day, the majority of people treat Path of Exile as a single player game, and even the people that play doesn't really are trying to win. They're just trying to play for a month and be done with the league. But if GGG made events like each month that weren't SSF and they had prize money on each event, then it would totally be labeled as a pay-to-win game.
Okay, so in the game's current state, during those races where you get a laptop if you kill like the Uber boss first or whatever they did, that's pay-to-win to you. Path of Exile is a pay-to-win game.
No, because it's not done in a trade environment. It's SSF.
It's not okay. So you can buy it. Okay, so stash tabs are only a pay-to-win mechanic if it's in trade?
Yes, because they they allow you to trade with other people without.
I disagree, by the way.
Okay, so why do you
Why
disagree?
do you see?
I disagree because I think in general stash tabs do provide you a lot faster mechanics on a lot of different things, like being able to sort frags easily and other things. All of those are slight time advantages.
Okay, so you would
Okay,
define. I thought you were going to go the
on
other
that.
direction. So you're defining as even in an SSF environment, you would call Path of Exile a pay-to-win game.
If you're actually competing, yes. All of those minor things that give you slight time advantages are pay to win.
Okay, so what
I
is
can agree
the
with
like?
Fonzie on this.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, Geargate. So what is
No,
like the
that's good.
functional use of labeling it pay to win? Because I would argue that you're doing more damage than helping. Because by
It does-
labeling it pay to win, these casual players who are not going to care about the severity of the pay to win, they're just like, oh, it's pay to win. I'm not going to play a pay to win game because I have values. We're just use a fictional hypothetical person here, right? I have values. I'm not going to play pay to win games. Don't you think that just harms Path of Exile? Because for all intents and purposes, it's not really pay to win for the average player, right?
It can harm Path of Exile in any games in company's reputation.
Hold
and
the
that's why I
fucking
don't
phone. Everybody, chill out. I got my first support gem. Mana Leech. Holy shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on for Mana Leech.
Useless.
Okay. Okay, yes, it can damage a game and a company's reputation, and that's why we don't really call Path of Exile a pay-to-win game.
But isn't that
because
what we're arguing
it
against?
doesn't really matter.
I'm
No,
saying
we're
it's
saying-
not pay to win, but it sounds like
I'm-
everyone's disagreeing with me because it's
We're
on the
not
gradient.
saying Path of Exile is a pay-to-win game. We're saying it has pay-to-win elements.
Doesn't that make it pay to win?
Yes, but we really don't. We don't care because at the end of the day, you're gonna play the league and have fun.
Okay, but wouldn't
What
the
is the
average
winning
player
and pay
on
to win?
Reddit asking, should I play, in like the Diablo forums, should I play Path of Exile? And the Diablo players are like, no, it's pay to win, just like Diablo Immortal is. It's like, obviously you would disagree with that. I would disagree with that. I think these are totally different levels. But just the fact that you can call it pay to win, it's so damaging to the brand. You would agree, yeah?
The problem is that you're arguing that the like literal straightforward term that has a very direct definition shouldn't be used just because of how people like have used it from your own casual perspective.
Well, because
it's-
it's a very heavy accusation to call a game pay to win, right?
Well,
It
look.
gives certain imagery to like the average person. What does pay to win mean, right? So I understand what you guys are saying. I agree with you. We both have the same, not really the same definition of pay to win, but we both agree Path of Exile is fine where it's at with what it sells in the market, right?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. I just wouldn't call it pay to win because I just think that functionally, it just doesn't solve anything. Like, GGG's not going to change what they do because they probably don't consider it pay to win. When they advertise their game, they always say, this is not a pay to win experience. If you play our game, we will treat you fairly. You cannot buy power. And when somebody's on Reddit, it's like, actually, it's kind of pay to win. You can buy a stash tab. It's like, what does that solve?
Well, keep in mind that GG doesn't say that stash tabs are not pay to win. They say that for the cosmetics, because for the most part, it's true.
If I asked
Because
Chris
they-
Wilson,
just
are stash
cosmetics.
tabs pay to win? What would he say?
I bet he will say yes.
No
Yes.
shot.
Yes.
In fact, previously Chris has mentioned that if he were to go back, he wouldn't have made it free to play. He would have had a slight floor on the cost so that people had stash tabs included.
Do you have a link to that?
Man, it's
Is that the same post where they say that they didn't do it because it would betray the people that already paid for the stash tabs?
The thing is, like, if it were sold as a competitive game, then PoE would be recognized as having a very slight pay-to-win ceiling, because there are only a few things that you actually like would buy in order to get an advantage. So like it'd be like a, I don't know, what, like $25 buy-in to have what you need to have like the same playing field as other people. The problem is that you're fully against using the term for its own definition just because of how
The negative
people-
connotation.
the connotations that people have. It's like saying that it's wrong to say that someone broke the law just because people often use the terminology of breaking the law to like refer to fairly severe offenses,
Yeah.
like murder or whatever.
Yeah. I think if you say that person broke the law, stay away from him. And it's like, what'd they do? Oh, they stole a candy bar once, got talked to by the cop. It's like, well, hold on. This is not, like, even close to what you should be describing this person
But it is
as.
breaking the law.
Okay, but it's so broad of a definition that the person, I would argue that the person using that in that scenario is trying to actively damage the reputation of the person and not doing it for any, like, good-natured reason.
And in general, are you saying that it is not breaking the law to
I'm
do
saying
something like
that even if it is, you can't call it that, because it's like, at that point, it almost comes across like you're trying to actively damage that like, when you describe broadly, not just you specifically, when you describe Path of Exile as, like, pay to win, it seems like we're using that derogatorily, like, this game isn't worth playing because it doesn't respect your time. It makes pay to win. It's like, well, hold on. These are two different things. It's like, that person, don't associate with them. They broke the law. It's like, hold on. Do you not want me to associate them because they stole a candy bar? Or do you not like them? Like, it's that kind of deal. I would question motive. Like, and I don't want that in video game discourse. I want it to be open. I want it to be fair and understanding. And I feel like when people label something like Path of Exile pay to win, it just misses the mark.
I don't think that the PoE players label PoE as between, and even when they say, like, yes, you need to buy star stabs to really play the endgame, they basically say, like, okay, treat the PoE experience without paying as a demo, like a 40-hour demo, and then you can buy in with $20, and that's basically the extent to pay to win as PoE. They say that with a clause like, yes, you're gonna need to buy star stabs, even the $20 package to play PoE, but it's not really play to win.
Okay.
However, you get to other games that they are very egregious, like Diablo Immortal, and they are downright abusive, and you have to say, yes, this is pay to win, this is bad. But not every pay to win is bad.
Well, I agree with that, but people aren't saying Path of Exile is kind of sort of pay to win, but only if you, like, squint. People are saying, yeah, Path of Exile is pay to win.
No, they do say that.
I don't know.
If you go to Reddit, they say, like, you don't really need to buy the star stab if you want, but
the people, if somebody didn't like Path of Exile, like they're like a big Diablo fanboy or something, do you think that's what they're gonna say? No, I want Diablo fanboys to be like, yeah, I hate Path of Exile, but it's not pay to win at all. Like, that's what I want them to say. But instead it's like, well, you know what? If you squint and you look at it, like, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon sideways, it's like, yeah, it's pay to win. Therefore, Path of Exile is a pay to win game. It's like, well, hold on. That's not really what we should be getting at, right?
I think the biggest issue is that I think a lot of the audience here is looking at it from a more competitive point of view, especially because this started from the Jarvan skin, which gives a very minor advantage, which probably in a lot of lower level games wouldn't really matter that much, but in higher level games where people have extremely, like, good reaction times and all of that, it actually can make a slight difference.
I still wouldn't say that's pay to win.
So here's my question. So the main thing that, like, you're basing this conversation off of is that you don't want it to be called pay to win, mainly because of how people receive that term.
Yeah,
Even if
exactly.
definitively it, like, is accurate. So what do you call something that you have to pay money for that gives you only a minor advantage?
Oh, if it's advertised by the company, pay to win.
And if it's not?
If it's a bug, then I would label it as it's a bug. You could call it, hey, when you buy items in the store, heads up, it's a buggy. It could be a buggy game. I think that is an absolutely fair descriptor. But to say it's pay to win, that is a burden that I don't think can be satisfied by saying, yeah, they sold a skin once with a super minor advantage, but you know what? They said it was a bug and they're on their way to fixing it, or they haven't fixed it yet, but they will. I don't think it's fair to call it pay to win.
So if you're a hardcore racer and they start putting on a lot of monetarily focused racing events, and in order to be on, like, that same level as other players in having the stash space, the quick sorting, all of those other things that you get from stash tabs,
yeah,
do you say that Path of Exile is a buggy game because of the stash tabs?
No, I would say that in a competitive environment, Grinding Gear Games could do a better job equalizing the field with people who bought stash tabs or not. I would not say pay to win. I just think it could be, hey, Grinding Gear Games doesn't host good competitive events. That's a fair argument. Hey, I would maybe even agree with that. But I don't want to call it pay to win because it's implying that they make a deliberate effort to sell you power in their video game. And I think they have never given me any indication of that and have only given me the opposite.
Okay, but
I mean, that's the problem. You're literally rewording that people can pay to win.
Can you though? I mean, it's like, maybe you're right. Maybe Path of Exile isn't a good example because we have races sometimes, but that's not really how most people play. How about, let's just stick to League of Legends. I think that's a better, because it's so clear to me that it's not pay to win. So like, when I define that skin as like not pay to win, I define it as a bug. That does make sense. I know you know it makes sense, but I'm just trying to translate that.
Can be a pay to win microtransaction.
Only if like they embrace it like a bug is a feature, but just having a bugged skin in the store.
No, even for a day, they say we're gonna fix it tomorrow, but it is giving you an advantage. Yeah, that's pay to win for a day.
Okay, yeah, that is pay to win because they are actively choosing to sell you power. It is like a purpose. Like they make that conscious decision, right? It's fair to call the game pay to win. I just think that maybe there needs to be a new word to like describe games like Path of Exile or something, or I'm bringing that up again, but like a game where like it's bug to win or something, where it's like it's just a whole different level of severity. Sorry, still sick.
Wait, I mean, like the PoE one isn't even bugged. It's designed that way.
I still don't think stash tabs are pay to win anyway, but it is technically you have more tools than you had before. So sure, on the gradient scale, it's a little bit into the pay to win direction. I still don't think it's pay to win. I would never describe Path of Exile as a pay to win environment.
You don't have to recognize Path of Exile as a pay to win game.
But Diablo players will call it that. They will frame it in the absolute worst light possible to get less players to play our favorite video game, okay? I have a problem with that.
You can say anything to put the game in a bad light. You can say, yeah, the developer is bald. If your objective is for people to not play the game, you can say whatever you want about the game and twist it in a way that makes it seem the game bad. But that doesn't mean that that when people call Path of Exile a game with pay to win microtransaction, that doesn't mean they're not saying the truth. It is objectively the truth, but it doesn't matter in the end.
Okay. Well, anyone else want any more input on the subject? Battlecast COG isn't bugged. It's a feature. Well, I still wouldn't call it pay to win. It's not. No, I wouldn't. It's not pay to win to me.
I agree that pay to win is maybe too harsh of a word, especially for us that we come from.
And that's all I'm saying. It's like, hey, when we talk about this on Reddit, let's not let the haters have ammunition.
Okay, if someone asked me, hey, is Path of Exile a pay-to-win game? I would be like, not really, but you can
just say no, it's not. Because in what world is like the average player going to be in that environment?
Because I would be lying if I say, no, it's not pay-to-win, because they will then play the game, find the stash tab, find that they cannot
hold on, we just established that stash tab. Do you think stash tabs for the average player, the Joe Blow, the first time player who's in Act 3 and they see a stash tab on sale for the first time, is that pay to win?
It depends if the person thinks that that Path of Exile is a game.
No shot. No. It's not pay to win.
If someone came and say, hey, I'm gonna compete in the next Path of Exile race, and I said, no, Path of Exile is not a pay to win game, and then they play the game and saw that they cannot trade without stash tab, they will call me a liar because yes, stash tabs are pay to win.
First of all, you can trade without a stash tab. Thank you. Second, and it is inconvenient.
Who is using the forums and the trade channel?
Yes,
on.
you have tools to trade. It's maybe not the most efficient way. Maybe you could make the argument that they should give you one free trading tab for the convenience of it, but it's not pay to win. Excuse me. By the way, guys, I love both of you. I'm just saying. This is none of this is negative spirited. You're all wonderful people. I still value your opinions a lot. And maybe I could ease up on maybe not calling everything not pay to win, okay? Maybe that's fair, okay? I'll extend that olive branch.
Do you call prisoners who have committed a lesser offense a different thing than prisoners who commit higher offenses?
If they are actively in the prison system, they both get called adults in custody or AICs.
That is the same way that pay to win as a term should be used. And just because you can call somebody a criminal, even if they did like a minor offense, doesn't mean that that term is any more or less correct to use.
No, I disagree. Because when I imagine, what I'm thinking is like, you're out, okay, 2 people have served prison sentences. One served 6 months for drug dealing, or not drug dealing, but having drug possession or something, drug possession. And then the other one served 20 years for possessing child pictures, right? Let's say these both adults are each of your neighbors, left and right. Are you going to say both are terrible criminals who should be avoided? Or are you going to say one is a criminal, and I still wouldn't use criminal. I'm trying to think of like what's a severe... They both broke the law.
AIC is a very like specific term, right?
Yeah, adult in custody.
It defines exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Just
an
like
adult
pay to
who's
win,
serving prison time for an illegal offense, yeah.
Exactly like how pay to win exactly defines that something that you have to pay real money for gives you an advantage in winning.
I don't think that's a useful label, though, because when people use pay to win, they don't think that. They think, oh, this company has no values. I don't want to associate with a video game that's pay to win because I don't want to be known as the guy who plays a pay to win game. Like, there's a severe, like, negative connotation to that phrase. You can't do 6 months in prison. A felony requires a year and a day. I'm a correctional officer. Hey, I don't work in security. I work in medical. Hey, be nice to your pharmacy technicians. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like if AIC had a bad connotation, you're saying that you shouldn't be able to use it to like specifically identify people who are adults in custody.
I think that when you define an adult in custody, it is a hyper-specific term, right? And I think what's happening is you're using that hyper-specific term as something as broad as how you would consider a pay-to-win. So when I consider something... Specific. So when I see an AIC, right, I see somebody who is actively in the prison system. And you're saying, hey, this pay-to-win term, this AIC term, they're the same. Because the guy who's actively in prison where that label is actually useful for, you're using it for that average Joe who served like a night in jail like 20 years ago. Like, these are like totally different severity levels of like who you should and should not associate with and who you even can associate with. And you're using it as like saying, hey, both of these guys are AICs. But it's like saying, hey, Genshin Impact and Diablo Immortal, they're both pay to win. Therefore, this is the correct term to use for Path of Exile. It's like, it's too, does that make sense?
While that dude is in custody, he is an AIC.
Yes,
and
but the moment he leaves, he is on parole. He's been paroled.
The moment they fix the Jarvan skin so it stops giving advantage?
If they fix the bug, it's not it's not giving an advantage anymore, but I wouldn't have defined it really as pay to win anyway. Unless they deliberately didn't fix it.
Like, in the same way, that's why we define pay to win in this way. And just because in like all of your time playing, which is mainly from a non-competitive like perspective.
Fair enough.
Where in a lot of competitive forms, it's very important to pay attention to these elements that are pay to win or are potentially pay to win. That's why we have to define it as pay to win, because even like a one frame advantage or whatever, if it means nothing to like a casual player, it can mean a huge amount to like a competitive scene.
You say have to, like it's a mission. Like we're on, like we have been tasked with like spotting every instance of like advantage buying in a store. And it's like, well, hold on, what if a company like League of Legends releases a skin and it accidentally has a bugged out like Jarvan E? Is that pay to win? Well, I would argue no. The mission is overzealous. Maybe that's a good way to put it. It's too broad, it's too open, and what's happening is you're attacking companies who don't deserve to be attacked by calling the game pay to win.
The problem is you are placing intention into everything. Whereas
yes, because I think it's intentional. I think when somebody says pay to win, I think somebody when says Path of Exile is pay to win, I think there is an intention behind it.
I disagree. I think some people may, but I think some people use the term as it is defined. It is, by definition, pay to win.
The problem is also that every time that you bring up like using the term, you always say straight up to the company that the company is pay to win because of it. There are elements that are individually pay to win, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like the group behind it is intending for it to be pay to win or whatever.
Can you give me an example of that?
Time that comes, okay, do you think that Riot Games intentionally puts pay to win in their game or whatever?
No.
There are very slight elements that are pay to win, but that doesn't mean that Riot Games is a pay to win company.
But when you label League of Legends as a pay to win game, that is what you are doing.
No. You're saying League of Legends, like, look, that's why these skins are banned from professional play, because they provided slight advantage.
Because there's a bug with the skin that should be fixed. If the bug was fixed, they would
cut them in formats where winning matters more. There is slight pay-to-win elements, but that doesn't mean that the intention behind all of the company is pay-to-win. That's why people don't refer to the company as pay-to-win, just the elements themselves.
But if you say their prime game, the biggest game they are known for, League of Legends, Riot Games, if you say League of Legends is pay-to-win, you are implying the company is actively selling power to you, a player who has never heard of this game before. It's such a I don't know if people realize how damaging it is. If you get labeled pay to win, if the Riot Games MMO came out today and it was like, hey, is this game pay to win? Yes. One of the cosmetics for one of the weapon skins accidentally makes one of the skills on Mage activate with a 1% more cast speed. Pay to win. Do you guys realize how much damage that does to like the company and the game, that image?
I can agree with you that we don't have a better word to define the kind of games that PoE is and all the others that don't really offer an unfair advantage over others, or their pay to win is very minor. But because we don't have another word to define it, we can only just call it a pay to win game, or say that yes, it's pay to win, but with a caveat.
I think it should just not be called pay to win. I think we should say they sell buggy things in the store. I would agree with that, like I said earlier. But you can't call it pay to win because it's so damaging. It's like when you do that, here's what happens when you do that. If companies realize how not realize, but if companies all agree, okay, we will fix everything in our stores immediately. Do you guys realize how much content's going to be cut? Do you guys realize how much resources they're going to have to use to fix that immediately in order to not be labeled a pay to win, to get on that list, the same list as Genshin Impact?
The problem is you're trying to warp the definition of the word just
No, you guys are making it so
people
overly broad. I'm just trying to give a little definition here. I'm trying to give it specificity.
We're using the most specific example. It literally is what the words mean put together.
No, like, you guys are using it so broad.
You can't use it because of how people receive it connotatively.
Because it's used so broadly.
Imperial definition.
In no world is Path of Exile or League of Legends or any of these like kind of games that sometimes sell a skin on mistake that have like a slight bug with it that they disable for competitive play. Whatever, right? That's not pay to win in any world. And by labeling that, you are absolutely putting it on the same list as Genshin Impact and Diablo Immortal, and it's doing damage to the brand.
Have you seen any thread where someone asks if Path of Exile is pay to win?
Absolutely.
Almost every single thread you find of it, the answer will be, no, not really, but if you play for a long time, you pretty much will have to buy like $20 of stash tabs.
Maybe I'm looking at different threads. I explicitly see yeses all across the board because you can buy stash tabs. That is the overwhelming answer whenever I see it.
Okay, do you think people consider Path of Exile or League of Legends a pay-to-win game?
I think people who... Yeah, I do.
And
I think you guys consider it pay to win.
And are you seeing their reputation being damaged by it?
Yes.
No, do you really think like the regular player or the person that wants to play PoE or League of Legends, do they really get the impression that they are pay to win games?
It doesn't matter about the impression. That's fine. I think it gives off the impression it's not pay to win, I would argue. But the fact that people do label it as pay to win means you are damaging the brand. Because let me tell you, I played Dota 2 one day in my life, and guess what? If that game was labeled as, oh yeah, it's pay to win, because some of the skins are pay to win, I would be okay with it, personally, because I play Path of Exile, and I know people call this shit pay to win, even though it's not really, so maybe I'll take it with a grain of salt. But if I were the average Joe Blow who plays, like, Destiny and, like, I don't know, Call of Duty, and somebody's like, hey, this new Call of Duty, pay to win. Do you guys realize the problem that does to the brand? Do you guys realize, like, they would never play Dota if they knew it was pay to win? Like, they don't want to get associated with that. They don't want to be known as, like, the Genshin player of the group.
I don't think Path of Exile or League of Legends have had their reputation tarnished because they are pay to win, even though the majority of the players think it's pay to win. Because
do the majority of Path of Exile players think this game is pay to win?
Can I say something?
Absolutely, you can say something.
Okay, I just want to say, in my opinion, Path of Exile is pay for quality of life, which I'm totally fine with. I'm in the middle of a big game. I'm gonna leave now. Goodbye.
No, you're fine. Solo. Wait. Hi. Bye. That was Blight Cake for chat listening. What did she say?
Basically, this is quality of life, or pay for quality of life. And in some aspects, I would agree, mainly because I think that the idea of winning in Path of Exile is extremely nebulous, given that it is not a very competitive game whatsoever.
I think I agree with you. I think that pay for quality of life, pay for QOL, I think that is a fair descriptor. But I would never use quality of life as winning, as like pay to like.
Yeah, but here's the thing: in every thread, like basically every thread I've seen where people ask if PoE is pay to win, like every answer I see is like, well, it's not like really pay to win, but it would be disingenuous to say that they aren't kind of pay to win.
I don't know what hyper nuanced Redditors you read, but in every forum I've seen, at least maybe they're just outside of the PoE subreddit, it's always, yeah, they have stash tabs. That's like the overwhelming answer I read.
Yeah, but like Sola said, they even say like it's quality of life.
Yeah, and that's, you know what? I think that's a fair descriptor. I think Path of Exile is pay for quality of life, but in no world should anyone say pay to win.
But you can't really go to the normal player or the casual and say it's paid to quality of life.
I think you can. I think that's fair. That means you pay for quality of life things, but you're not buying power.
I think it should be a much known term, paid to quality of life, and I think it's a very good description of what Path of Exile is.
Yeah, but instead of that, we have people saying, "Oh yeah, Path of Exile is pay to win." Like it's just like, well, hold on.
The problem is everybody knows. And because everybody knows, we have to say it's pay to win, but because we don't want to really label Path of Exile as a pay to win game because
it's not.
It is not. I agree, but it has pay to win elements, and that's why
it has pay for quality of life. If we label it play to win, again, you're putting it on the Genshin Impact list. It's I want people to play Path of Exile, and I want to be honest with them about what the game offers and what it sells. It sells quality of life. If they have a question about it, we can answer it. But to say pay to win, they don't even need to ask the question. How's it pay to win? No, they're just going to be like, oh, it's pay to win. I don't want to play it.
But that's why everybody it's pay to win to an extent. They say, yes, it is pay to win, but it's really not. Then
what were
they
you saying,
say that on every...
Sorry, I thought you were done, Gergate.
No, go ahead, Fonzie.
Every time the term is brought up, you say that we shouldn't use it because it becomes applicable to the company or the game as a whole. Whereas what we're saying is specific elements are pay to win. On a macro sense, often these are like washed out, which is why people use the term in a very gray zone, which is why I always see whenever someone asks about Path of Exile being pay to win, I always see that gray brought up. There's always context that matters. There's always like, yeah, only up to like a certain extent. All of those little things make it so that when it is brought up, it's not like people say, oh, GG is a pay to win company. Oh, Path of Exile is a pay to win game. They say, well, there's these tiny parts of it that can be seen as pay to win, but on the whole, it's not really pay to win because you put $20 down, you get your stash tabs, and you're on like equal footing.
Okay, so if Kotaku came out with an article today and it was like, hey, here's a list of pay-to-win games that are out, some of the most popular video games out there, look at all the ones that are pay-to-win. Genshin Impact, Diablo Immortal, maybe Diablo 4, I don't know, Path of Exile. And it's just like, do you want Path of Exile to be on that list? Because every time we say it's pay-to-win, even if it's on a gradient, even if we say it's pay-to-win, it's gonna get thrown on that list, I guarantee you.
No, because it's not applicable to the game as a whole. There are slight pay-to-win elements. There's slight pay-to-win elements.
That's
in
all
most
people
games.
need to hear, because it's on that gradient. It's like, okay, slightless pay-to-win elements, well, then it's pay-to-win. That just sounds like you're coping. Not
So
to
you're
be
saying
not,
that
not to be
because
mean, I'm just
a
saying
term can be
devil's advocate.
sensationalized, you shouldn't use it? Like, that's pure semantics.
I think calling it pay-to-win is sensationalism. I think sensationalism will beget sensationalism.
No, see, okay, the start of this entire discussion was that you were saying that Jarvan skin is not pay to win.
I still
And
don't
that
think it's
Jarvan
pay to
skin
win.
is that's the whole point of the argument, though. Nobody's saying that League of Legends is pay to win because there's a Jarvan skin that is pay to win. No one is saying that Riot Games is a pay to win developer because they have a skin in the game that you can pay money for in order to get a slight advantage. But when you look at the Jarvan skin, you go, yeah, that's a pay to win skin. It's like, remember when you played Yomi Hustle and that dude had a robot thing where like he caused a seizure to like
Yeah.
obscure all of the
Oh my god, I
animations
could
around
barely
him?
see. Yeah.
And you said, oh wow, pay to win skin? If you can pay to completely obscure that, yeah, all these things are pay to win. Maybe it was bugged. Maybe it was a bug that caused it to like cause a seizure every time you
In
looked
which
at it.
case, it should not be
And
called
it's
pay to
still
win.
pay
Me
to win.
making a joke about the overabundance of like the flashiness of certain MTX is paid for the same reason people will say certain like ground slam like RGB skin is pay to win because it's like screen vomit. Okay, it's a joke, but I would not call that skin pay to win unless it was deliberately designed that way. Players complained about it and the company was like, well, that's the way it's designed. I would agree that is pay to win. But if they're like, hold on, this is more than we expected, we're gonna fix that bug on the bug list at some point, no, it's not pay to win because they're making an active effort to not call their game pay to win.
The thing is, the skin is bugged to be pay to win. It's not intended to be pay to win. And I think
Okay,
the
when you say
problem is,
to be, what do you mean by
for
that?
you, like it's the current state that it's in due to the bug is causing the skin to be pay to win, aka you have to pay money for it, and it causes you to have an advantage
No.
for winning. It's
No.
literally the definition of pay to win. Yes.
No, I think pay to win or not implies. I think pay to win is when a company actively like puts it on the market for the purposes of you buying power. I think there has to be intentionality behind the definition of pay to win. Otherwise, the term doesn't mean anything, and it's just used for attacking games.
No. You're trying to make it specifically so the definition of the term is only used when attacking things, whereas when I see it from a competitive perspective, I always have to identify these elements as pay to win. That's like literally the definition of them. And when you say, oh, it's bugged, that doesn't work in all cases. Stash tabs aren't bugged. They're designed that way.
But there's no
Like-
functional use to labeling it as pay to win, right? When I think of labeling something as pay to win, I think of a derogatory term for the purposes of calling something out so it changes. So we get it out of the video game space because it's bad for video games. That's what I think of when I think of calling something pay to win. It's like an insult.
It's true. The Jarvan skin's pay to win. We want it out. Fix it.
It's a bug. Say it's bugged.
It
Say,
is,
hey,
and it needs to be fixed because it's pay to win.
is it more bugged or more pay to win?
The bug causes it to be pay to win.
No,
That's the
it's a
point.
bug. That's bottom line, brass tacks. We call it a bug. Fix the bug, Riot Games. If they don't, it's a buggy thing that you buy in the market. It buys you power, but I would still not call that pay to win. I would never call League of Legends pay to win. Because if you do call that pay to win, you're saying, hey, Riot Games is deliberately selling this thing that gives you an advantage in solo queue. Therefore, it has to be, by definition, a pay to win game. Yeah?
All right, we live in this insano world where you and I are on exact same footing for Path of Exile. We're going into a race. Winner gets $500, but I have stash tabs, which let me quickly sort things. We're both on a race to level 90. You run out of stash space for what you need. You can't quickly sort things. You fall behind like a total of 1 minute and 40 seconds over the course of the run because you don't have the stash tabs. That is clearly pay to win, yes?
No.
Because I bought the stash tabs, I beat
No, because when you label something as pay to win, it is to it's to attack the company. It's so it changes, right? You could make the argument that the quality of life offered to you makes you a faster player. But the quality of life, by to quality of life, yeah, fair. Path of Exile's like that. But you don't need stash tabs to win a race, right? Do you remember that occultist player, the Righteous Fire occultist player who like made low life Righteous Fire a thing while leveling? He was like the speed running guy in the community. Guess what? He didn't buy a stash tab. He was normal. He was the average Joe. And I don't think when you label something as pay to win, it implies like the average player can buy to win. And I know I'm bringing that up now for the first time, but I think that is like another line of delineation to what is and is not pay to win. I understand that just because something is mainly only pay to win for like the highest echelon of players does not necessarily make it not pay to win, but in this specific circumstance, I don't think it applies. I would not label stash tabs as pay to win in any circumstance.
Okay, the problem here is that you think pay to win is an attack, but it doesn't have to be, and in fact it doesn't for the majority of
people. It is always an attack. You never label something pay to win and it's not like derogatory.
It is not, and we do it all the time, because when we say Path of Exile has pay to win elements, we say that with a description and say this is how pay to win is.
You say that with disdain. You don't like it.
No. I say that it is pay to win, but it really is not, because you only have to buy.
Then why call it pay to win? If you don't want it to, well, not that you don't want it to change. If it's not that big of a deal, if it doesn't really buy like 99.999% of all players any sort of power, if it does at all anyway, do you still define that as pay to win? I don't.
It's a description. It lets the other person know that they can buy.
It lets who know? Some Joe Blow on Reddit who wants to know if he can play Path of Exile without feeling like the idiot in his friend group for playing a pay-to-win game?
No, it lets the other person know that they're gonna need to spend money at some point if they want the quality of life that it offers. Yes.
Do you have to spend money in Path of Exile at any point?
But they don't have to, but it offers a certain amount of power for that money.
It doesn't. It offers quality of life. You don't need to spend a single goddamn penny in Path of Exile to find full enjoyment in it.
Let's go to my example, right?
Go.
We're in a race. I win because I have tabs. I bought the tabs. It gave me a slight advantage because I went faster than you. Maybe some days I'm going slow and some days you're going fast, but overall, over the course of however many races we do, I have a slight advantage, which is me winning over you in the races because I have these stash tabs. How is that not pay to win? I literally paid money and it made me win more.
Because there is enough skill expression in Path of Exile, there is never a world where stash tabs make a difference.
Okay, so you're saying if
it's always more
League
skill
of
based than
Legends,
that.
if I could pay $5,000 and all of my champions have 2 AD, just 2 AD more, that's not pay to win.
That is pay to win.
But you could beat me if you're better than me. So because there's so much skill expression in League of Legends, 2 AD, that doesn't mean so much, right?
Well, 1, 2 AD does mean a lot in League of Legends. 2, it's different because the company that is selling that is actively selling you power, right? Stash tabs are not power. Stash tabs are quality of life. I wouldn't define that as power. These are two different mechanics. It would be like, imagine this. Imagine if in League of Legends, you could buy the ability to load the game faster and be well, that's not fair because everyone loads in at the same time because it's a competitive game. What if, I'm trying to think of a good example for League of Legends. I can't really think of anything. What if when you kill Baron, instead of loading the full graphic, you can buy a graphic that makes it so your game doesn't drop like 10 frames a second, only drops to 5 frames a second. Would you declare that pay to win?
It would be.
No shot. It's quality of life. It just doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
Well,
Here's my example.
Don't want me like you don't understand.
Wait, how is it something that actually affects their game doesn't make a difference? That makes like literally no sense. It does make a difference. Like,
So
in
half
my
of the
example,
skills in
if
Path of
we were
Exile are
racing,
pay to win because
like,
you
you
have
didn't-
higher screen fidelity from like frame rate drops or something.
Sure. And
No
okay,
shot.
say you have a skill, right? Say the top meta skill, okay? This top meta skill, it's got a problem, right? You know, it drops your FPS to like 8 when you use it, you know, normal Path of Exile things.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
if you
yeah.
buy the skin, man, no FPS drops whatsoever. When two equally skilled players go up against a pinnacle boss, the dude who gets dropped to like -3 FPS gets absolutely fucked, and the dude who paid money doesn't. That is a pay-to-win element in a racing scenario. The main reason that Path of Exile can't be recognized as pay-to-win, for the most part, is because there's very little real winning. There's almost no real competitive nature to Path of Exile at all.
Let me extend the example that Fonzie put.
Okay.
Let's say that Path of Exile is an esport, and there's a race between you and Fonzie.
Sure.
And then Fonzie ends up winning because he has that microtransaction that doesn't lag the game. Do you think the players will be okay calling that a fair win, knowing that you didn't use the microtransaction and Fonzie did?
I don't. Well, one, I know I will engage with a hypothetical. Give me a second. One, that would never happen because it's never happened. At no point in Path of Exile's entire history has ever been an expected you have to spend like $20 worth of microtransactions in order to be competitive. Never in the game's history has anyone ever said that. But to engage with the hypothetical, I think that I could see a world where somebody could say this is a pay-to-win argument. I could see how that world could exist, okay? I'm not a total idiot. I think it's so wild and so specific and so likely to just never happen that for all intents and purposes, we should not label this pay-to-win because you're attacking grinding gear games for something that just will never happen. It's such an absurd hypothetical.
So the only reason you are not calling it pay to win is because Path of Exile, it's not an esport and there's not really.
I'm not calling it pay to win because I don't want to attack grinding gear games for having a pay to win game because it's not pay to win.
The problem is every time Gary hears pay to win, he slippery slopes it directly to whatever is responsible for it.
Okay, I'm not slippery sloping. I'm
Straight up
fucking
the slope,
based.
baby.
I'm based sloping.
Up to
Okay,
the top, baby.
all right. Listen, it's such a damaging term. It's just you are labeling it. You're putting it into a box it does not belong in because it just gives off the totally wrong impression. Even if you say it's just a little bit, it's like, here, let's use an extreme example, okay? This is an extreme hypothetical. If I said, hey, I'm a little racist, just a little bit racist, just a tiny bit racist, are you guys not going to think, okay, this guy's just racist? Is that not the box you're going to put me in?
If you, okay, can we do it with another example? That's
Sure. Let's say
okay,
I
for
am.
example, you have the two criminals that are your neighbors, and
Okay.
one got caught with weed, and the other murder another person.
Okay.
If a person came to you and say, "Hey, are those two people criminals?" You say, "Yes, but he only got caught with weed. He's just a really good person." The other one, though, he's a murderer. If I stop and just say, "Yeah, they're two. They both are criminals," I'll be in the room and I'll be attacking the person that just got caught with weed. And that's why when I say it's pay to win, I specify how pay to win is because I'm not using it as an attack. I'm using it as a descriptor. Yes, they're both criminals, but he only got caught with weed. He's not really a criminal. Come on.
I think it is. Oh, that's so complicated. If you called them criminals, yes, factually, at the bottom line, you are probably correct to say that. Nobody's going to say, it's not illegal for you to say that. I just think it is so damaging to one person's reputation there because they shouldn't really deserve to get called that, right? It's been so long since they've committed the crime. It was such a minor crime that putting them in the basket as that other neighbor who did that awful thing and served most of their decade adult life in there, I just think that it's so damaging to that person's reputation that you have to be very careful with how you wield that kind of social pressure. And I just think it's wrong to attack grinding gear games for that purpose, calling elements of it pay to win.
It is damaging, and if my objective was to attack the other person, I would just flat say it's a criminal, and I wouldn't I wouldn't like, how do I say this? I would just say he's a criminal and be done with it. But because it's not my intention to attack the other person, because I know that criminal is a very damaging word, I have to say it's a criminal. But yeah.
Okay, let's reframe this completely. Let's do it like this. If you hated Path of Exile, if you were an anti-fan, right? If you were a hater, and you wanted to attack it to its absolute core and get people to stop playing the game, or get new players to not even try it, what would you say right now to get people to not play Path of Exile? Put it like in the absolute most mean light possible.
That you can't really play because your FPS drops to 1 as soon as you get to maps.
No, you would say it's pay to win.
No.
Yes, that is absolutely the best way to get somebody to not play a video game. Because you guys are even more so, like I'm that way at all. But you guys are very competitively minded players. If Street Fighter 6 came out and everybody said it's pay to win, obviously nobody competitive, or at least competitive minded, I would think, would want to play that game.
Okay, here's the thing. Say Street Fighter 6 comes out and one of the skins, it's like slightly harder to see like someone's like 2B or whatever.
I'm going to say it's not pay to win, but keep going.
You're not going to say the game itself is pay to win. You're going to say, yeah, that skin's kind of pay to win.
No,
and then maybe,
I would
like,
say
some
it's
tournament
buggy.
circuits will say, it's literally pay to win. What if it's not even a bug? What if they never said it was a bug? Does that mean it's not pay to win?
No, then it is pay to win because they're selling a product that gives you power.
You don't know whether their intention was for it to be power.
If you say, if it's not bugged and you deliberately, and they just keep it on and they confirm it's not a bug, it is pay to win, yes.
So if they have to specifically say like, yeah, this thing's a bug for you to like not say that it's pay to win?
Yeah, I think so. So if Grinding Your Games came out with a skin and it's like, or not skin. No, I keep wanting to go Path of Exile because I'm playing the game. If Street Fighter 6 came out and Cammy had a skin that gave her fierce kick like a little bit more range, like a couple of pixels, yeah, I would say that's pay to win until they acknowledge it's a bug, and it's like, okay, then you're just selling a buggy product. That's what I would say. Is that fair?
So what's stopping companies what's stopping companies to sell like microtransactions that are clearly pay to win, but they can just call it a bug?
Well, then they're just doing something illegal, probably. Then you charge them with a crime. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm assuming good-natured companies here.
Say the Cammy's low kick isn't frame advantage better. It's just slightly harder to see for most players. You know, when you're like, for your casual play, you're like, yeah, whatever, you know, she looks cool, heh. But in competitive, they're like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's like slightly hard to see it. Everyone's playing this goddamn Cammy skin, and like people are like, what the hell? It's pay to win.
And guess what? If they don't confirm it's a bug,
it's not pay to win. We just want her to look cool or whatever. And so everybody who plays competitively playing Cammy either plays that skin that they have to buy with real money, or they just have a slightly weaker character.
In that circumstance, I would call that pay to win, yes. Is that surprising to you? You're sounding like your words.
All the other arguments.
That's not the same. It's not the same at all.
It is the same.
It's not. Don't both of you go. It's the same.
My
It's
God.
not even close to the same. It's not even close. Because when you, okay, what was I inconsistent on? What was the other inconsistency I had?
It's the same as the Jarvan skin. That's the inconsistency.
No, it's not, because the Jarvan skin is probably an acknowledged bug. It's probably on. If you sued them, they would show you the bug list it's on.
Since 2015.
It's no, I don't believe it.
The problem
I think that if you sued Riot Games, they would show you, yeah, it's on this list somewhere on some bug list we need to fix. We just haven't fixed it because it's just not important. But the fact that it's buggy does not mean it's pay to win.
So, wait, no.
So if they say they're gonna fix it, but they don't give a date, that's not pay to win.
I wouldn't say that. No, I would say it's a buggy product.
So
Which is in itself is damaging. I am saying the company should change. It is damaging to the reputation, but pay to win is on a list you do not want to be on if you're a free-to-play company.
Okay, so the problem is every single time a single element of any game is brought up, you immediately say that the entire company is going to be accused of being pay to win and stuff.
Because when you say it's a pay to win product,
so the problem with that is that how are you going to refer? So like, how do you refer to the Jarvan skin? You just say it's buggy. So, in the same way that when someone brings up pay to win, you immediately go to the connotations of what the term pay to win means.
Yes.
So, when referring to this Jarvan skin, you just say it's buggy?
Yeah.
What is someone gonna think if you say it's buggy?
That it's a buggy skin.
That it makes them have a competitive advantage that will let them win?
It could be,
That,
or it could
like,
be
is
because you would
necessary for
agree with
competitive
me.
play?
You would agree with me. There are skins that exist in some of these free-to-play games, like League of Legends, where you are at a disadvantage. A skin in Street Fighter where you are easier to see certain moves.
You mean
You are
pay to
easier
lose?
to predict. That would be called a buggy product, as long as it's acknowledged it's actually bug and not intended.
It's just pay to lose, man.
Yeah, but it's
that's
not-
how these terms are used. That's
But
the
I
problem.
still wouldn't even. Well, I would say it's buggy because yes, buggy is damaging in its own way. I would agree, but it still gives a more accurate descriptor of what's going on than the company is selling you power for the purposes of making money, which is what is implied when you call something pay to win.
Here's
But
the
when you
other
say that
problem.
something is buggy, then you're damaging the game because why would I play a
Yes,
competitive
I
game
am.
that's buggy?
And
I
beyond-
agree, but it's not as damaging as pay to win, so it's a more accurate descriptor.
No,
Maybe not.
beyond damaging. It's not a more accurate descriptor. You're now tossing all of these minor pay-to-win elements under the umbrella of buggy. Do you know how wide the umbrella of buggy is? That's like the most non-specific thing you can get. You can get bugs that do anything.
I disagree completely. I think, what I think, like, buying, like, a product in their store is buggy. Like, they sell buggy products. That's what I'm trying to imply here. So when you sell a buggy product, it does not perform as advertised. You want a purely cosmetic skin, right? You want something that looks cool. If it affects your gameplay in an unintended way, it's a buggy skin. I would call the game selling buggy products. It is an attack. It is meant to damage the game's reputation because it's selling buggy products. But to call that pay to win because it gives you a positive advantage in the game, that is on a whole, you are losing customers to the company because they're doing this, and maybe that's what you want, but I think it's inaccurate.
Wait, so your argument against pay to win is that it can be used to negatively indicate something towards an entire company or game somehow from a single element just
Yes.
because of the connotation. But buggy, which has a similar connotation, like say the game had
Yes.
absolutely no bugs other than one character model that is slightly off gameplay wise, that
Yeah,
might
then I would
give a
say they
slight advantage.
they
You're saying the
sell
game is
potentially buggy. I would say it
That's
sells potentially
insane.
buggy products. I don't think that's insane at all. I think
That's
what's
just
insane.
as, like,
I think it's insane
inaccurate.
as calling. I think it's
That's
insane to call
immoral.
Path of Exile a pay to win game. That's insane to me. That's off. That's
here's the thing.
wild.
Nobody is saying. Nobody brings up the argument of the company as a whole being indicated as being pay to win or anything like that.
That is
simply
whenever you
because of
say
single
something
elements.
is pay to win.
Nobody's saying that.
Everybody
Everyone-
is saying that when you say it's pay to win. That is what
The
it's implied.
problem
That's
is
how the average person, the layperson,
You
will
throw
interpret
all
that
context
message.
out the window and
You throw
shuffle
context out the
term-
window when you call
Look,
it pay to win.
I don't call GGG or Path of Exile as a whole pay to win. And every
But you
single
call
time I
certain
see
things
one of
about
these
it pay to
threads,
win.
Nobody says as a whole it's pay to win. They say yes, stash tabs can be a pay to win element, but there's only like a small ceiling to it. Blah blah blah. All these things are context.
And
because it's
all
not
I
black and
hear
white.
is all the Diablo fanboys saying Path of Exile is as pay to win as Diablo Immortal and losing us customers.
Okay,
Even though it's
so
clearly the better game.
The problem is that you would rather be inaccurate and incorrect.
I am more accurate
than
by saying
have people being able to use a term incorrectly in order to mislabel or
no, I'm using
negatively
the accurate
label
term. I'm
something.
saying it's by the quality of life. I want Diablo players, the fanboys, to be like, yeah, when you played Path of Exile, you're probably going to have to spend money in order for the game, in order to not hate your life, because you want to, like, trade easily or something. I think that is an absolutely fair criticism. But it's not pay to win, which is the thing Grinding Gear Games wants to avoid. When Asia split, when Tencent took over the Asian servers in Path of Exile, do you remember how many times Chris Wilson had to say, listen, they're going to make changes over there. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to be pay to win. Don't worry. We're going to be respectful of your time and money. Like, he had to go on that marketing spree in order to, like, not have everybody abandon him because he knew the reputation damage that he would have had Path of Exile been known as the pay to win game.
I think you're saying that a game, that a product is buggy is even more damaging than saying it has a pay-to-win element. Because what the hell does that even mean? Why does it need to be buggy? Does it not open like 90% of the time? Does a character just clips off?
I keep saying, like,
bit?
you are selling buggy products. Like, that's what I'm trying to imply here. I've only ever used examples where they use skins or something, where it's an unintendedly strong or weak or whatever. I would consider those selling buggy products. So when I say buggy, that's what I mean.
That's the same as saying, like, that's like saying, you know, League of Legends, it has a few skins that are slightly advantageous. That's way different from saying League of Legends is a pay-to-win game, which is what you're trying to say. So you can say, oh yeah, League of Legends is a great game, man, but there are a few skins that are a little pay-to-win, but
no,
you know,
I would not say that. I would say there are skins that can buy you advantages because they sell buggy products. That is what I would say. That is accurate. That is fair. That is to the point. Everybody, the layperson, will understand what you are saying when you say that. But when you say some elements are pay to win, it's like, well, hold on. Now I don't even want to know about this game. It's like Genshin Impact. Because that's
just
pay to win.
reworded pay to win to giving you advantageous elements. Instead, what
because they
said
sell buggy
is
products.
You would just say it's buggy.
No, because you sell buggy products, advantages could result from that because the company sells buggy products, which is damaging to their reputation again, but again, it's not pay to win. I would not describe it that way. I think that is very disingenuous to describe it that way because it's like you come across like a hater who doesn't want average players to like play the game. Like that's how it comes across.
Saying that they sell buggy stuff is also hating on the game. Like, it's super disingenuous
It is,
to say,
but
like,
it's an accurate descriptor. It is far more accurate than saying it's pay to win. Because it implies an intentionality.
The game... Okay, the skin element is pay to win. That's why whenever someone refers to a very small singular element as being pay to win, they describe it very specifically within the context of the whole.
And it's always interpreted as the whole being pay to win. Always. Every time.
Okay, here's the
You
problem.
guys need to talk to like your like grandma about how she plays her Bejeweled or something. You guys need to know what these average players think, okay? Because they do not like do the super nuanced take of like, how about this? You know what? I'll extend the olive branch, all right? I'm Gary the olive branch boy, okay? If every player was as nuanced and well-researched as everyone here and had the patience to understand the difference in different levels of pay to win, I would agree with you. But that is absolutely not the case. That never happens. They always judge the whole. They always, like, at a quick glance, am I going to play this video game? Oh, Reddit says some elements are pay to win. Next game. And they'll find something else. Always.
Okay. If your only like example of a game being pay to win was, for example, PoE. If you only played PoE and that was your only like experience with a pay to win game, if someone else told you, "Hey, Diablo Immortal is a pay to win game," you will think, "Oh, it's just like PoE. You just buy some stuff."
Yes, I agree with that.
But then he'll hit the hard reality that that's not how pay to win Diablo
and that's a
Immortal
problem
is.
because what you need to do is flip it. What if somebody's only experience with pay to win games are Genshin Impact or Diablo Immortal, and then they hear Path of Exile as pay to win elements? How do you think they're going to interpret that?
But you're flipping the description of pay to win now.
No, I'm using the exact same example as you. I'm just flipping the games around.
Okay, so you're saying it's okay to use pay to win when it goes from Path of Exile to Diablo Immortal, but
no,
not
I'm
the other
saying
way
that if you
around?
describe everything as pay to win, I'm not even saying nothing is. I'm saying it's going to get grouped in with other pay to win games you don't want to get associated with, even if you guys don't intend it.
I think for me, the real standout is how weirdly differently you handle the terminology of bugginess as opposed to pay to win. When buggy is, first off, an insanely wide net, and second off, also has a derogatory connotation when you call a game
this is
buggy.
the fourth time I've had to say this. I don't describe them as buggy. I say they sell buggy products, okay?
Yeah,
that is a very different connotation.
And when people talk about, like, Path of Exile being potentially pay to win, they don't say Path of Exile is a pay to win game. They say, yeah, stash tabs can kind of be seen as pay to win, but, and then they describe in nuance, in context, in the exact same way that you describe bugs or bugginess.
No, I never said the game was buggy. I said we should go onto forums and say, yeah, the game sells quality of life. Yeah, the game might sell some buggy products if it's like League of Legends or something, but I would never say the game is buggy because again, that's a very actually for Path of Exile I might do that. But
you're saying, okay, you're saying yeah, it can sell buggy. There are some buggy things that you can buy from the store. It's the exact same way as people nuance their arguments for saying Path of Exile sells stash tabs, which can be seen as pay to win because they do provide advantageous elements, and go on with that. In a racing scenario, stash tabs are pay to win, but in the grand scope and context of things, it's not like they're like super important pay to win elements and there's a very low ceiling to them. That's why whenever people talk in the context of pay to win for Path of Exile, they always specify these sorts of things in the same way that you're specifying the context of what these buggy products are. And the problem is, for some reason, you have such a massively specific and aggressive way of defining pay to win that
because it's so damaging.
Yeah, but the problem is, every single time we say that a very small element is pay to win, or talk about how
I think that is as damaging as calling the company pay to win. Absolutely.
But you're disregarding what we say and what we explain as to why it's not really pay to win.
I understand why you guys call something pay to win. Here, how about this? I'll phrase your argument. Not even like differently. I'll try to phrase it as you guys did. Path of Exile, in some circumstances, can be considered pay to win because there is a certain product that the company sells that in some very specific circumstances could be arguably pay to win, or at least gives you some sort of quality of life advantage. We should call that pay to win, and we should let new players know that the game could be at some point pay to win to them because we want this product.
People describe PoE perfectly, but the fact that you encompass pay to win as a whole as a bad thing just disregarded the whole argument.
Well, I'm saying it's a bad thing because if I use that argument, I would, if I were just the average person, I would say, okay, well, why would I play grinding your games pay to win game when I could play like, hey, Diablo 2 Resurrection, that looks pretty fun. That's not pay to win. They don't sell stash tabs there.
The problem is the context. When you made that argument, you said pay to win like 6 times. It's like if someone asked you about Path of Exile and you're like, yeah, well, you know, they sell a lot of stuff in the store that, you know, it can be really buggy. You know, there's a lot of like, you know, the game has a lot of bugs in it. It's
yeah,
like,
I would absolutely
really
use that phrase.
Experience.
Absolutely, I would call the game buggy. I think that's fair.
That is like, that is
really not
the exact same level of damaging as the Path
absolutely
of the
not. That is unreal.
So
a game can be buggy and be loved. Kenshi is a perfect example. Europa Universalis is an example. Games can be very buggy and still very loved, even regardless of those bugs, okay? But if a game is pay to win, that is a whole nother level
The problem is that
of losing the
when
market.
someone asks you about it, if you just continually hammer that the game is buggy, it inherently implies that the game has a bug problem.
The game does have a bug problem. Path of Exile does, but I'm still gonna praise it. I'm still gonna praise all the good things about it. But you can't save a pay-to-win game. If you say your game's pay-to-win, you can't do the same thing.
Yes,
the problem is, every time anything is brought up, you immediately black and white it.
I have to, because that's what happens when you call something pay to win. It becomes black and white. Path of Exile sells something pay to win. It is a pay to win game.
Incorrect.
That is what happens every time.
Let me tell you, this is the exact argument. I'll link you plenty of threads if you feel like it. Every single time someone asks, is Path of Exile pay to win? The argument comes up and says, stash tabs are kind of pay to win, but you only have to drop like $20 on it. It's pretty
and then it's done, and then it's good, right? But I still think I wouldn't call that pay to win. I would say pay for quality of life, buy a stash tab, get good quality of life. It's worth $20. The game earned it. I think that's very different than calling it pay to win.
If you think pay to win is a black and white situation, do you think being buggy is a black and white situation too?
Do I think being buggy is a black and white situation?
Yeah.
I think that yes, in the same way it is kind of black and white. I think there are people out there who do think, oh, this game's buggy, why would I play a buggy game, and just not give it the light of day. But I am being far more honest with what Path of Exile offers, because if you don't like buggy games, you will not like Path of Exile. It's not always honest with the damage it gives. Look at the DPS tool, right? It is a much more fair and honest representation of the game is. So while the game loses sales by calling it buggy, and it does, it's not nearly as damaging as calling some element of it pay to win, because that will lose you so much more than a buggy game.
I googled, is Path of Exile pay to win?
Stash tabs, that's what you're going to get an answer on.
First thread. As a happy customer with a hell of a lot of stash tabs, I think it would be disingenuous to assert that stash tabs aren't in any way pay to win. I also think it misses the point to respond to questions like this by A, pointing out that PoE is a great value, B, saying that GG needs money to develop their game, C, noting that it's possible to do X or Y with only 4 stash tabs, or D, diverting attention to other more overtly pay to win games.
Yeah, and I think that does damage to the game more than it helps.
Provides advantages over those who don't pay money for stash tabs.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell that guy the same thing I told you. It's damaging to the game in a way that's unintended. You are losing so many more people who would actually genuinely love Path of Exile.
His argument is saying that stash tabs are slightly pay to win, but also that GGG and Path of Exile are not on the whole really pay to win. And that's exactly the argument with the nuance.
That is such an inaccurate descriptor, though. An accurate descriptor would be the exact same thing, but saying, yeah, it's a buggy game, but it's still worth it. It's still grand. It's still a wonderful game to play. You might have to buy some quality of life things if you feel like you want that quality of life, but it is not pay to win. And you're going to lose so many. That sales pitch does so much worse than calling it buggy. I guarantee you. 9 times out of 10, you will lose a customer to pay to win arguments over like a buggy argument. And I would argue the buggy argument's way more apt to the average player than the pay to win aspect that you think
The point is that talking through that argument makes it very clear what the pay-to-win elements are, and is very accurately saying that the pay-to-win has very little effect on most players and has a low ceiling. It is the most accurate argument of whether Path of Exile is pay-to-win, and significantly more accurate than saying that it's buggy.
Sure.
And
what do you think affects the average player more when they first play the game for the first 10 acts? A bug or a pay-to-win?
All you see is Path of Exile is pay-to-win. For some reason, you completely toss out every single thing the person says.
Because that's what average players do who don't know anything about ARPGs. Oh, some elements pay to win? Why would I research this? It's pay to win. That is always, well, not always, but like most of the time, the reaction you're going to get from players. And that is so damaging to the brand. That is so damaging to it. The average person, I guarantee you, the average person who has never played an ARPG before has heard more bad things about Diablo Immortal's pay-to-win aspects than anything good about Path of Exile. So when you say anything is pay-to-win in Path of Exile, but it's okay, that person's going to ignore it because it's pay-to-win. But if you say to them, hey, you're more likely to be, you're way more going to be encountering bugs way earlier than you are any sort of stash tab need in the game, right? You're going to encounter a bug immediately. The DPS tooltip doesn't actually show you how much damage it does. The armor tooltip doesn't actually show you how much damage reduction you have. That is a bug that affects you far more immediately as a newer player, and that should be advertised to players, and it is damaging to the brand, but at least you're being honest. Sorry, go ahead.
Accurate. They just don't take context into consideration.
I think you're not taking context into consideration.
Level monster
we take context into consideration because when we say it's pay to, it's me.
Jasmine, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jasmine.
I'm surprised you're starting up so late.
Yeah, sorry, Geargate, what was that?
We take the context into consideration because when we say Path of Exile is pay to win, we say to what extent is pay to win. If we said Path of Exile is buggy, they're gonna think it's buggy to the same extent like Skyrim was at release. It is
really buggy, though. It's good to tell players that. It's good to be honest and upfront. If I was selling players on Europa Universalis, I would say, hey, you know what? You're going to have to buy the expansions if you want to enjoy this experience, because you need expansions in order to do certain functions in the game. That is an honest descriptor. But I would never say Path of Exile has any sort of pay-to-win elements in it. One, because not really for, like, if you're a new player. Hell no, you don't have any pay-to-win elements, especially if you're a new player. But you will encounter bugs, and I think you should be honest with players when you advertise the game to them or you explain to them on the forums.
You're not being honest if you just straight up say it's buggy.
It is buggy. That is very odd. Is it not? That is like one of the main descriptors of Path of... That's what makes it fun, but...
It's so rare that look, it's very rare. Pardon me, I'm sick. But I do have to say this. There's no way a game would be that so perfect without bugs. There's gonna be bugs.
Well, Path of Exile has a lot of bugs. But sorry, Geargate, go ahead.
You're being dishonest when you say Path of Exile is not pay to win. if someone
For
told
the
me that
average
Path of Exile-
player? For the new
Yes.
guy?
Yes, because when that new guy gets to a certain point where they want to trade or they want to acquire the items that every people suggest they do, because when they say when you're new to Path of Exile, you need to follow a guide, and when you follow a guide, you need to buy items from other players. When they get to a point in the guide when they need to buy their first unique or their first real rare, they're gonna realize that they need to buy stash because if not, they cannot really trade with other players because nobody uses the forums and nobody uses the trade chat.
Well, one, you can use those things. It's just very, very inconvenient. Also, what do you mean?
and
Hold on. Everybody uses the forums. What are you talking about? You can't trade without using the forums. All the trade tabs do is just uses the API the forums use in order to list items on there. But like, it's the
Nobody's
same
looking
thing.
at the forum threads to buy items. Everybody
You
uses
do use forums as the buy item. That's what Path of Exile / trade is. It's the forums just in a UI that you find very convenient. It uses the forums API.
To list items in the forum in the trade API, you need to buy a stash tab. People are gonna.
No, that
people
is
are
not
gonna-
true. If
people
you want to
are
list a
gonna know
forum,
why
if you want to
the
list an
item's
item
not
on the
selling.
trade API, you just have to list it on the forums the same way everybody else does, and your item shows up on trade. You will get whispered.
Okay, is that true? Fancy?
Hey, he's probably AFK for a second.
I don't play trade. I don't know, man.
Yes,
I
that
really
is
don't know.
true. You absolutely have the capability of doing that. But I would agree with you, it is pay for quality of life. But it's not pay to win.
Quality of life
But
helps
a
you
normal
win.
person, when they get to a point when they need to trade, they're gonna see that they need to buy a stash tab and realize like.
And
what
I
the
would
hell?
rather,
They
I
told me
think
it was
more
not pay to
damage is
win.
done if you tell them there are some pay to win elements and they play anyway and they get a super buggy experience, then I tell them it's a super buggy experience and not tell them there's potentially, at some point, a stash tab that you might want to buy for some quality of life. I think that my way does way less damage to the game and is a much more honest presentation of what the game has to offer than your
It
guys'.
is more damaging and it's more dishonest unless you specify to what extent pay to win Path of Exile is.
I
which
don't think so.
everybody does.
I think you guys do way more damage when you say, yeah, this is Path of Exile, it's a great game, it has some pay-to-win elements under specific circumstances, but it's fine. I think that does way more damage than saying it's a really buggy game, and you're gonna be, and a lot of people really, really love it when they do love it, but you gotta get used to some bugs. It just comes with the experience. I
Do you
think
think
my
that
way
the
will
bugs
sell.
massively hinder the gameplay of Path of Exile for the average player?
Yes.
Really?
Really?
Yes, because when they look at their character sheet and they see they have 90% reduction in armor, they're going to think they're more defensive than they are. When they look at their
You think
character
the
sheet
casual player
and they
cares
look at the
about that?
damage
But
between
that's
two
not
different
buggy.
skills like Molten Strike and Dual Strike, they're going to use Dual Strike because they have higher tooltip DPS. That bug is bad. That is a
Okay, but-
negative experience, and when they find out that it's not true, they're not going to feel cheated. They're going to be like, oh, that's that bug that people were talking about. Like, that is a much more honest presentation of the game.
Okay, but the tooltip and the armor reduction thing are not bugs. They work correctly.
They are bugs.
No, they're not bugs.
They are
Wait, so-
absolutely bugs. That is
intended,
not an accurate
but the
representation of what
intention-
you do as a character. You should
It-
near at any point look at tooltip DPS.
Don't argue with Geargate.
That's not-
He doesn't understand how they work. Okay, so what about that new player when they go, wow, this is a fun game. I sure am having fun slapping things with my heavy strike, and they get all the way to maps somehow, magically, and they go, well, shit. I've gotten so much random shit that's dropped. I can't put it all in my 3 stash tabs or whatever I have. And they go, well, wait, I thought this was a free-to-play game. I don't have room for any of this shit. What happens then? Is it not pay to win? Do they not have to pay now? Is that not a terrible experience?
No, it's not pay to win, because guess what?
Don't you think they
As
should...
you can see on
Okay,
my stream right now, there is a function in the game to sell your items. You know what a new player is going to do? They're going to look at their stash tab full of stuff, and they're going to be like, damn, I should sell some of these items. They're not going to think to buy a new stash tab unless it is deliberately
players
advertised to them.
Know what to sell?
They,
Do you
okay,
really
the
think
problem
the
is
player knows
they
who
are
should sell a phone?
severely limited when they have that many stash tabs. Severely.
No way! A new player? A new
As
player
they get
either
into
sells
maps
every
and
single
start working through maps. Have
A
you
new
played
player's
the game
all
on
they're
3
gonna
Smash
do.
Tabs?
A
This
new
shit's
player.
terrible.
A new
In
player's
this
gonna
day and
sell
age,
all that shit. They're gonna sell everything. They're not gonna know what the fuck they're doing. They're gonna use currency orbs on shit. They're gonna throw away items. They might keep an old axe and be like, well, I don't need this anymore.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm keeping this, and sell it.
Alright.
They're not gonna think to buy a stash tab
And when
unless
that
they see
player
the
gets-
stupid press M
gets
to buy a
like
stash tab.
simulacrum and they get 15,000 frags, they're like, oh, I guess I just leave them on the ground because I don't have enough fucking room for it. Is that not like, oh man, I wish someone had told me before I started that I might have to drop $20 on this fucking game? Is the same thing as the tool just being buggy.
No,
All
I
these
think
things-
at that point,
I think both of these arguments are highly disingenuous to what PoE is, and that's why every single time when you discuss a game, either whether it's buggy or what bugs are in it, or what pay-to-win elements are in it, you have to be very specific in describing what you're actually talking about, the context of it. What are the pay-to-win elements? Do they have a big effect on a player? And that's what people do when they describe it. The problem is, for some reason, you are a goddamn bull. When you see red, you're like, oh, it's fucking pay-to-win. Everything's pay-to-win. The whole arena's
no,
pay-to-win.
you're the one who's the
behind
bull.
wall
You
fight is
call it
pay-to-win.
pay to win. I say don't call it pay to win.
The problem is when you hear pay to win, if someone even whispers, "Wow, that Jarvan skin that you
Yeah,
have to
I
pay
would say
for,
it's
that
not
gives you
pay
a
to win.
7% higher
Absolutely.
chance to win." That's a pay to win skin, and you go, "What are you calling League of Legends pay to win?"
Yes,
Riot Games
because
a
you
pay to
are
win
calling it
company?
pay to
Well,
win.
Yeah, it
problem
is
is-
a pay to win.
No, it's not pay to win. Jasmine, don't agree with them.
The problem is
No, I
you
meant
are the
league.
one
I meant
who brings
league.
up the company. You are the one who escalates the term. And
Because
for
that's
some
how they.
reason, you
I don't.
can't see
I
that you are
acknowledge the
one who does
truth.
it.
Okay, I acknowledge it because newer players think of the company when they think pay to win. If they hear League of Legends is pay to win, they think Riot Games is pay to win.
Nobody is saying that. League of Legends is pay to
That's
win.
what you
That
are
is the
saying when you say
problem.
it. That is the
You
damage
are
with
thinking
it.
that.
You are using such a broad term for a hyper-specific example that you are actively damaging the reputation of grinding your games.
Get your ass back here.
Sorry, we
Okay.
attack each other with love, Jasmine. These people
Oh, I know,
are very
I know.
friendly to
Nerd
me.
fighting nerds.
There you go.
Okay,
We're fighting
if I told
nerds.
you-
I
if
do
I
want
told
to
you
say
this-
in I do want to say this one thing that's pain in the ass so far since I'm still kind of new to the game. Necromancers need to go suck a dick.
In Path of
I-
Exile?
Yes, I'm on there. I'm in like. So you need to fight this necromancer that summoned all these picking.
Yeah,
full
Necro,
thing.
yeah.
It's pain in the ass. I had died from that damn bastard. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
how
summon
many
a lot.
times.
What were you saying, Geargate?
Okay, if I told you, hey, there's this new card game I want you to try.
Mhm.
It has a pay-to-win element. You have to pay $5 to get the starter pack.
Damn, that
Otherwise,
sounds like a
you-
game I don't want to
Wait,
play.
wait, wait,
Holy
wait, wait.
shit, pay to win?
Wait. If I told you you have to pay just $5 to get the starter deck, that's 20 cards, and all 1,000 other cards you can get just by playing the game. But you need those 20 because it has like 2 cards that are really
Well,
essential.
okay, that's pay to
Or you-
play. Can you
or-
play the game at all
okay.
without it?
Yes, you can play the game without it, but you won't have those.
Oh, then it's
2
pay to win.
cards. Wait, so you will say that is the same kind of pay to win that Diablo Immortal is?
I would say the game is pay to win because you are basically requiring me. I'm going to be such a more powerful new player by spending money on this card pack. But you're talking to somebody I consider like Hearthstone pay to win, to be fair. So I would consider like Magic the Gathering to be pay to win. I'm that kind of person. So,
you're
like-
by considering this hypothetical game pay to win, you're also considering Path of Exile pay to win
No.
because it offers you a minor advantage.
No, it's not an advantage for the new player. If stash tabs are an advantage at all, it's with like racing events from like fucking Ben or like Zizarin, okay? It gives them the advantage, okay? We're not talking about Joe Blow on Reddit saying, hey, is Path of Exile pay to win? In that case, it's not.
Okay, so you consider pay to win because it has an effect competitively, right? So if I say it's not gonna affect you until you are like you're in the top 100 players.
I think in
up
that
until
case,
that
it's
point-
not even worth mentioning to a new player. I would say in that scenario, like, I would just say other things about the game. I just wouldn't even mention it.
That's the same thing about the bugginess argument, man.
No, because in Path of Exile, the game is buggy. You are going to be encountering a ton of bugs. Sound effect bugs, visual bugs, skill bugs, DPS bugs. There's a lot of issues with the game that's going to be affecting the new player bug-wise that it's absolutely worth an honest mention in the initial sell of the game. But if you say, oh, the game is kind of sort of pay to win eventually, the game, it's so dishonest to me.
Tell me the first bug you encounter in Path of Exile. Or
the first buggy content? You look at your character screen and you see the damage number. That's the first bug you run into.
That damage number is accurate to what Path of Exile is trying to represent. But it's not accurate to what a player wants it to represent.
No, it's buggy. It doesn't represent anything. It's a meaningless number.
That calculation is correct. But it's not correct because it's using the actual calculations properly. It's not taking into consideration, like, for example, the armor of the enemy. It's not taking into consideration elemental resistances. It's not taking into considerations like no,
that's not even true.
All the other stuff.
What about Molten Strike? It only shows 1 projectile damage every time you hit with the skill. Actually, does it even do that? I think it may only show the actual, like, weapon attack of Molten Strike. Is that an honest representation of what the skill is?
Yeah, it's an actual representation.
It's a representation, but it's a buggy representation. It's not even close to what you do as a skill.
It is not an actual representation of the skill, but it's not buggy.
It is, I would consider that a bug. I think that is a buggy element of Path of Exile, and grinding gear games should fix the tooltip DPS.
You don't know what a bug is, but that's also semantics because I'm a software tester. The problem is that I think that you have a very specific perspective that you are attempting to look at this from. The very, very casual perspective.
Sure.
Whereas when we're looking at it from a far more accurate, nuanced point of view. And I think that the problem is you are only looking at it from that very, very specific perspective that is like 98% based on connotation.
Yes, because that very specific example that I use can be broadened out to most people who look at the sell of the game. Because I'm being super specific because that is like that's where word of mouth is where Path of Exile gets its business. Every business relies so much on word of mouth. And if every word of mouth sell of the game is, yeah, eventually it's pay to win in this minor aspect, it does so much more damage to the game than you think it does. And that's why I'm being like super specific in that scenario for the casual player, because it affects your enjoyment in Path of Exile in ways you don't even realize. Having a third of the base you do now means less content. Having a third of the player base now means you have less things to do in the game. Less ascendancy bonuses, less balance changes, less content every patch, because you have less of a money player base. Casual players carry this fucking game. And by casual, I mean players who like get to like maps every week or something, because they buy the cosmetics, they buy the loot boxes. They are the lifeblood of this game, not the hyper competitive players.
Every argument you bring up immediately escalates the term pay to win to being a grander like recognition of the game as a whole. The thing is, the term pay to win is only used componentially when it is being discussed whether specific elements are pay to win or if a game
it's used as a derogatory term to attack the game so people don't play it. That's what pay to win is.
Chris Wilson will be mad at you for calling PoE not a pay to win game to call it a pay to win game.
I think he would be livid if you called it a pay-to-win game in any aspect. I think he would be much more satisfied with you calling it a potentially buggy game.
No, what?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely! Absolutely he would have a problem with you calling it pay-to-win.
Look,
no.
Here.
He will help. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, hey, at least this game is doing a lot better than Terra.
Well, Terra Online, I've never played it. I don't know. It might be pay to win.
It's gone. It got removed like since June. It's gone. It's dead.
Damn.
You can't. It's a very old game like Exile, but it's doing a lot much better than Terra because it had a lot more people.
Wow, Jasmine, you sound as sick as I do.
I am sick. I am very sick.
Oh jeez. Yeah. Sorry, Geargate. Go ahead.
A buggy game is borderline insulting to a developer when the game is not even to
The
level
game
of
is
bugginess.
buggy. Path of Exile is known for being buggy. That is like the number one thing people say about the game.
It's buggy.
The game is absolutely buggy, and I think it's totally fair to call it that to new players, so they know what they're getting into. I love Path of Exile. It's a buggy-ass game.
No, because they're gonna think it's as buggy as Fallout like 76 or other games that come out and you can't even play them because when you try to open a door, you clip out of bounds. They're gonna think that when you say that.
It happens in Path of Exile. You've never clipped out of the map?
No.
What?
Highly disagree and doubt.
They're calling Tasman out.
I spent hours stuck in a prison game because I need to get past it. I'm stuck in a quest.
Oh, she thinks. Oh, she's stuck in the Act 1 prison.
Your Gary level pathfinding is
Hey!
not a bug.
Whoa, hold on. That's insulting to both of us. Chill out, dude. Anyway,
You're
all right.
not out of bounds.
You're
All
right,
right,
let's-
listen. You're not out of
We're
bounds.
big brains.
You
This
can
is
only
the-
out of
listen.
bounds with flicker strike. Really, it's a issue of a skill.
Okay,
You're the
so
jealous that made Gary have big brains.
okay. Oh, I've reached the 5,000 gold limit on gold. That's cute. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Let's do final thoughts here. We're at the end of the stream. Everybody, give your final thoughts. Geargate, go.
I think you can have pay to win, and as long as you disclose how pay to win is, I don't think it's damaging. And in fact, I think it represents the game better than not calling it pay to win.
All right, Fonzie.
I think that is a bad idea to have a purely connotation-focused argument, especially in the terms where, for some reason, you are entirely disregarding one form of connotative, like, issue and upholding another. For example, I think that calling Path of Exile, like, when you say that a game is buggy in your general description of it, you are saying that in a connotative way that is a huge problem for it. Whereas I feel like players that are playing Path of Exile for the first time will not encounter big enough bugs or anything like that for it to really be like a massive hamper to their gameplay. In addition, I think the reason we're using the term pay to win like this is almost always within the context of people asking whether it's pay to win, and or describing elements that are very specifically pay to win. And in these contexts, the usage of the term pay to win is both accurate and useful, whereas calling them simply bugs is a far more broad and far more inaccurate way to actually describe anything that's occurring.
Okay, well, you guys know where I stand on it. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. I appreciated it. Fonzie, Geargate, Jasmine, I love you all. You're great. Thank you
Don't
for
ignore
keeping my
Sola,
head in
too.
check. I still disagree with you,
My
but that's okay.
feelings.
No, thank you. Let's
I
have
got
another
so
discussion
loud.
like this sometime. That was fun.